The elevator doors slid open with a soft ding, and I stepped into the gleaming atrium of Apex Logistics, the air thick with the scent of fresh coffee and recycled ambition. It had been 23 years since I'd last walked these marble floors, back when the company was a scrappy startup in a dingy warehouse. And I was the one mapping out their first supply chain algorithms on a napkin during lunch breaks.
Now,
Here I was, in a tailored blazer and sensible pumps, clutching a leather portfolio that held more leverage than anyone in this building could imagine. The receptionist, a perky 20-something with a headset that looked like it cost more than my first car, glanced up from her screen and offered a practiced smile. "Morning. Are you here for the strategy session? Let me get you a badge." She printed one out without asking for ID, slapping on a label that read guest, family/visitor. I almost laughed. Family? Visitor? If only she knew. But I pinned it on without a word, feeling the weight of irony settle like a quiet storm brewing in my chest. The halls hadn't changed much. Same sterile white walls. Same hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Same faint echo of keyboards clacking like distant rain. I passed cubicles filled with fresh faces buried in monitors, none of them sparing me a glance. Why would they? I looked the part of someone's aunt dropping by to say hello, not the architect of half their operational backbone. Back then, I juggled late-night coding sessions with nursing a toddler, fighting tooth and nail against bosses who dismissed my ideas because they came from a mom brain. I'd left on my own terms, packing up my expertise and building my own firm, Vanguard Networks, into a powerhouse that now controlled the digital logistics pipelines Apex relied on for 80% of their global shipments. A cool $150 million lifeline, dangling by threads I could cut with a single email. But today, I was here incognito, sent by my board to assess if Apex was still worth the partnership. No fanfare, no announcement, just me, slipping in like a shadow. I found the conference room on the 12th floor, a glass-walled fishbowl overlooking the Seattle skyline. The team was already assembling, young guns in slim-fit shirts, laptops open, trading jokes like they were at a frat party. I slid into a seat at the back, blending into the scenery. A guy in his early 30s, with a manicured beard and a smartwatch that probably tracked his ego, stood at the front, fiddling with the projector. His name tag said Kyle, Director of Ops. He scanned the room, eyes landing on me for a split second before dismissing me with a smirk. "All right, folks, let's kick this off. We've got some heavy hitters joining remotely, but looks like we have a special guest in the house today." He nodded toward me, chuckling. "Someone's grandma here to audit our snack selection?" A ripple of laughter spread, low and easy, the kind that bonds a room at someone else's expense. I felt a familiar flicker in my gut, not anger, not yet, but that slow-building pressure, like a kettle starting to warm. I'd faced worse. Boardrooms where men twice my age questioned my math because it challenged their golf course deals. I crossed my legs, pulled out my notebook, and started jotting notes, my face a mask of polite indifference. Kyle dove into his presentation, slides flashing with charts on efficiency metrics and market expansions. He paced like a peacock, voice booming with false confidence. "See, the old ways, they're dinosaurs. We need fresh blood, agile minds, not relics from the dial-up era." Another glance my way, this time with a wink to his buddy in the front row. No offense to any vintage enthusiasts in the room. More chuckles. I didn't flinch. Instead, I noted the flaws in his data, overstated projections, ignored bottlenecks in their Asian routes, issues I'd spotted weeks ago from Vanguard's reports. The room fed off his energy, nodding along. But a few older staffers shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting to me like they sensed something off. The tension coiled tighter, each joke landing like a pebble in a still pond, rippling outward. Then, the door opened, and in walked the CEO, Mark Harlan, a silver-haired veteran who'd been a junior exec when I left. His face drained of color the moment he saw me. He froze mid-stride, briefcase slipping slightly in his grip. The room hushed, sensing the shift. Kyle, oblivious, kept talking. As I was saying, our Q3 pivot, Mark cut him off, voice sharp as a blade. Hold it. He stared at me, then at the group. Do any of you know who this is? Silence. Kyle's smirk faltered, confusion creasing his brow. Mark's eyes bored into mine, a mix of recognition and dread. Eleanor Voss, founder of Vanguard Networks. The woman who built the systems you're all standing on. The air sucked out of the room. Kyle's face twisted from cocky to confused, then to pale horror. Whispers erupted. Phones buzzed under the table as people frantically Googled my name. I stayed seated. Calm. But inside, the pressure built, ready to unleash. This wasn't just a meeting anymore. It was the reckoning. The revelation hung there, thick and electric, as eyes widened and posture straightened. Kyle stammered. I didn't. Wait. But Mark waved him silent, turning to me with forced composure. Eleanor, we had no idea Vanguard was sending you personally. If we'd known. I finally spoke, my voice steady, laced with that quiet authority honed over decades. You wouldn't have let your director turn this into a comedy roast? The laughter was gone now, replaced by awkward coughs and averted gazes. Mark gestured toward a side door. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. I rose slowly, portfolio in hand, feeling the room's eyes track every move. As we stepped out, I caught Kyle's expression, pure, dawning panic. The halls felt different now, charged with unspoken questions. Mark led me to his corner office, panoramic views of the Puget Sound mocking the storm inside. He closed the door, sinking into his chair like a man deflated. This is a misunderstanding. Kyle's young, ambitious, he didn't know. I leaned against the desk, arms crossed. It's not about what he knows. It's about what your culture allows. The words landed heavy, echoing the frustrations I'd buried years ago. Mark rubbed his temples. We've grown fast. Some edges got rough. Rough. I'd seen the reports. Harassment complaints swept under rugs. Promotions favoring bravado over brains. Vanguard's stake gave us veto power on partnerships if leadership risked our ops. I pulled out my phone, dialing my VP. Initiate review protocol. She confirmed. And just like that, the gears turned. Mark's eyes widened. What does that mean? I met his gaze. Full audit. If Apex doesn't clean house, we pull our contracts. The implication hit him like a freight train. Stock dips. Board panic. Careers crumbling. He nodded. Defeated. I'll handle Kyle. Back in the conference room, the team waited in tense silence. Mark announced, effective immediately. Kyle is on leave pending investigation. Kyle stood, face ashen, protesting weakly. This is over a joke? Come on. But security was already at the door. As he was escorted out, he shot me a look, betrayal mixed with fear. The room exhaled. But the undercurrent lingered. How many others had dismissed the wrong person? By lunch, whispers spread like wildfire. Did you hear? That visitor lady? She's a big shot from Vanguard. Old photos surfaced in the company archives. Me at the groundbreaking, blueprints in hand. Recognition bloomed, quiet and profound. I didn't gloat. I observed, noting who adapted, who resisted. The days stretched. Pressure mounting as emails flew and meetings scrambled. Mark offered me a temporary office, but I declined. I'm not here to stay. Just to ensure you survive. As afternoon faded, I walked the floors again. Memories surfacing like ghosts, late nights innovating. Battles won and lost.
Now,
The power dynamic had flipped. Not revenge, but restoration. The slow burn of being underestimated had ignited. And the explosion? It was just beginning. The fallout hit like a seismic wave, rippling through Apex's glass towers and into the digital veins of their network. By mid-afternoon, the internal chat channels were ablaze, not with memes or lunch plans, but with frantic queries and veiled accusations. What's going on with ops? Kyle's desk is cleared out. Heard it was over that meeting blow-up. Who was that woman anyway? I sat in a quiet annex room Mark had cleared for me, reviewing their latest quarterly data on my tablet. Flaws jumped out. Inefficient routing algorithms that wasted millions in fuel. Overlooked compliance gaps in EU regs. These weren't oversights. They were symptoms of a leadership rot that prioritized flash over function. I'd seen it before. In my early days here, when I'd push for upgrades only to be told to stay in my lane.
now,
That lane was a highway I controlled. Mark knocked softly, entering with a sheaf of papers. We've initiated the inquiry. HR's pulling records. His voice carried a tremor, the weight of a CEO staring down a potential implosion. I nodded, not unkindly.
good.
But it's deeper than one bad apple.
He sighed.
Sinking into a chair. We expanded too fast after the merger. Lost sight of the basics. Basics I'd laid down, scalable frameworks that had propelled them from regional player to national force. I'd left when the old guard sidelined me post-maternity leave, handing my projects to less qualified men who golfed with the bosses. Building Vanguard from a garage office, I'd turned that pain into precision, forging partnerships that now made me untouchable. The phone buzzed, my team at Vanguard with preliminary audit flags. Supply chain vulnerabilities at 15% risk threshold. I relayed it to Mark. Fix this. Or weary route through competitors. His face paled further. That would tank us.
Exactly.
The tension coiled tighter. Each revelation dousing fuel on the fire. Down in the bullpen, employees clustered in hushed groups, stealing glances toward the executive wing. One woman, mid-40s with a no-nonsense bob, approached me in the hall as I headed for coffee. MS. Voss, I remember you from the old days. You mentored me on my first project. Her name tag read Sarah, Senior Analyst. Recognition sparked, a flicker of warmth amid the chill. You did great work back then, I said. She lowered her voice. Kyle's not the only one. There's a clique up top, dismissive, especially to women over 30. I listened, noting names she whispered. This wasn't just personal, it was systemic. A mouth one echoing my own history. The pressure built, slow and deliberate, like a narrative unfolding page by page. By evening, the board convened virtually, faces grim on the screen. Mark introduced me, Eleanor Voss, Vanguard lead. Murmurs rippled, some knew my rep, others scrambled to research. I laid it out plainly. Your ops are solid on paper, but the culture's eroding efficiency. We've seen dips in partner trust. Our metrics don't lie. A board member, gruff Texan accent, pushed back. This over one incident. I leaned in. One incident exposes cracks. We've logged patterns, biased promotions, ignored feedback loops. Data slides flashed. Anonymous surveys Vanguard had access to via contract clauses. The room quieted. Realization dawning. We propose a restructure, I continued. Purge the toxic elements. Promote based on merit. Whispers turned to debates. But the undercurrent was fear. Losing Vanguard meant bankruptcy whispers in the market. Mark backed me. It's non-negotiable. Votes trickled in approval. The explosion simmered just below, ready to burst. That night, as I left the building, rain slicking the streets, I felt the shift. No longer the overlooked pioneer, but the arbiter. Yet, a quiet ache lingered. Had I become what I'd fought against? Power's double edge. The next morning dawned crisp, but Apex buzzed with unease. Emails from HR flooded inboxes. Mandatory culture training. Kyle's allies, 2 mid-managers, were quietly reassigned. Sarah stopped me again. People are talking. You're like a legend resurfacing. I smiled faintly. Just doing the job. But inside, emotions swirled. Vindication mixed with sorrow for the company I'd once loved. Mark called another meeting, this time with department heads. I sat at the head of the table, no back row now. Presentations were cautious, eyes flicking to me for approval. One young exec stumbled on a slide, correcting mid-sentence when I raised a brow. The power dynamic had inverted, but I wielded it gently, guiding rather than crushing. Still, the tension thrummed, whispers of more heads rolling. By lunch, stock tickers dipped slightly on rumors. Investor calls piling up. Mark confided, "We're stabilizing, but it's close." I nodded. Make the changes stick. As the day wore on, memories flooded. My first big win here, presenting a logistics overhaul that saved millions, only to have credit stolen.
Now.
Reclaiming that narrative felt poetic. Evening brought a pivotal call from my board. Proceed with renewal if they comply. I relayed to Mark, one more condition, diversity audits quarterly. He agreed, relief etching his features. The slow crested, emotions peaking in quiet triumph. But as I packed up, a young intern approached. MS.
Voss.
What advice for someone starting out? I paused. Never let them dim your light. Her eyes lit up, a spark of hope amid the chaos. Walking out, the building felt smaller, my steps sure. The mouth-one wasn't resolved, it lingered. A reminder of human flaws. But for now, balance restored, leaving a dew of quiet power. Dawn broke over the city, casting long shadows through Apex's windows as I arrived early, coffee in hand, ready to dive into the restructure. The lobby was hushed. The receptionist smiled tighter than before. No visitor badge this time. She handed me a full-access keycard with a nod of deference. Word had spread overnight. Vanguard's hold was ironclad, and I was the enforcer. Emails awaited, frantic pleas from mid-level execs. Subtle alliances forming. One from a veteran engineer. Glad you're back. We need your vision. It stirred something deep, a blend of nostalgia and resolve. Mark met me in the war room, charts plastered on walls like battle plans. We've identified key changes, 3 directors out, promotions for underrepresented talent. I reviewed the list. Kyle's cronies topped it. Good start. But ensure it's merit-based, not optics. He nodded, sweat beading despite the AC. The pressure mounted, each decision a thread in a tightening web. Morning meetings rolled, ops team first. I led, dissecting inefficiencies with surgical precision. Your routing software is outdated. Integrate AI predictors. Eyes widened. One woman, previously silent, chimed in boldly. I've prototyped that. I encouraged her. Present it next. Empowerment rippled, but undercurrents of resentment simmered from the old guard. Lunch brought a confrontation. A burly VP cornered me in the break room. This witch hunt? Over jokes. His tone dripped disdain, echoing past dismissals. I met his gaze coolly. Jokes that cost partnerships? Yes. He backed off. But the encounter fueled the fire. Emotions churning, frustration at persistent bias, satisfaction in standing firm. Afternoon audits dug deeper. HR files revealed patterns. Women passed over. Complaints dismissed. I flagged them to Mark. Address or we walk. His face tightened. Will comply. The board reconvened. Tensions high. A dissenting member argued. This overreach threatens autonomy. I countered. Autonomy without accountability leads to collapse. Debates heated. Voices rising. But data won. Renewal hinged on reform. As evening fell, Sarah pulled me aside. You're inspiring change. But watch your back. Some resent it. Her warning lingered. A mouthful of progress versus pushback. I left under twilight. Mind racing. Was this justice or overkill? The do-em echoed ethical questions. Next day intensified. Terminations executed discreetly. Kyle's allies escorted out. Whispers turning to gasps. Stock stabilized on positive leaks. Apex revamps leadership. But internally, morale dipped. Fear palpable. I hosted a town hall. Voice steady. Change isn't punishment, it's evolution. Questions poured. Will more go? I was honest. If needed. Emotions peaked. Tears from some. Nods from others. A young man confessed. I laughed at Kyle's jokes.
Saw the
Vulnerability cracked the facade, humanizing the drama. By week's end, new promotions announced. Sarah to director. She hugged me tearfully. Thank you. Mark offered equity stake. Stay on advisory. I accepted partially, power without chains. Walking halls. Ghosts faded. I'd reclaimed space. Yet, the conclusion left open. Could true equity endure? Or would cycles repeat? The narrative closed on reflection. A haunting query on progress's fragility. Weeks blurred into a rhythm of transformation at Apex. Each day layering tension like pages in a thriller nearing climax. I arrived to find the atrium abuzz. New faces in key roles. Old ones vanished like smoke. Mark's updates were daily. Compliance at 80%. Audits clean. But shadows lingered. Anonymous tips trickled in about hidden resentments. One email detailed a secret Slack channel mocking the Vanguard takeover. I forwarded it to HR. Watching the net tighten. Morning started with strategy sessions, where I mentored rising stars. The woman with the AI prototype shown. Her ideas adopted swiftly. You're the catalyst, she said. Emotions swelled, pride in fostering growth, echoing my unfulfilled past here. Yet, pushback brewed. A leaked memo from a sidelined exec accused overreach. Mark quashed it, but the air thickened. Afternoon brought a board showdown. Virtual faces stern. Costs of restructure mounting, one griped. I presented projections. Short-term pain for long-term gains. Vanguard's data proves it. Debates raged. Voices clashing like thunder. A breakthrough. Unanimous vote for full implementation. Relief washed over Mark. But I felt the peak approaching. Evening walks through dim halls stirred memories. Battles lost to bias. Triumph stolen.
now.
Inverting that felt cathartic, but bittersweet. Sarah confided over coffee. Some call you ruthless. I paused. Ruthless or necessary? Her smile. Both. The mouth wan deepened. Power's cost on humanity. Next day exploded. A whistleblower revealed embezzlement ties to Kyle's circle. Investigations launched. Stocks wobbled. Mark panicked. This could sink us. I studied him. Expose and rebuild. Teams rallied. Emotions raw. Fear. Anger. Hope intertwining. By night, arrests loomed, cleansing the rot. I reflected alone. Had I ignited justice or vengeance? The due imposed. At what price redemption? Closure neared, leaving ethical echoes. The restructure crested in a final board summit, the room electric with culmination. Mark presented reformed org charts. I endorsed. Vanguard renews. Full partnership. Cheers erupted, but subdued, scars fresh. Post-meeting. Promotions celebrated. Diverse leaders ascending. Sarah's toast to Eleanor, who returned the fire. Emotions overflowed. Tears. Hugs. A sense of rebirth. Yet, as confetti settled, doubts whispered. Sustainability? I advised ongoing vigilance. Walking out for the last time, halls felt renewed. My legacy etched anew. Mark shook my hand. You saved us. I replied. You saved yourselves. Driving away. Seattle lights blurred. Reflection stirring. The journey from dismissed to dominant left a haunting question. Does power corrupt or reveal? The story ends not in triumph, but contemplation, human mouth wan eternal, urging us to question our own biases.